Hey guys, Brad Gilmore here. Want to give a big shout out to our title sponsor, Walker Texas Lawyer. If you or a loved one have been injured in an accident, whether that be a car, truck, motorcycle accident, or some kind of other issue, hit up Walker Texas Lawyer at 713-552-1117 or walkertexaslawyer.com.
Oh, Brad, what have you done now?
Broadcasting live from Houston, Texas, and around the world. TV host, best-selling author, and radio personality Brad Gilmore brings you a collection of conversations with stars from movies.
Matthew McConaughey.
Brad Gilmore.
Mark Wahlberg.
Hey, how are you?
The legendary Mr. Christopher Lloyd. Christopher, how are we doing?
I'm doing good. Great introduction.
Jessica Alba and Lizzie Mathis. Ladies, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you.
Kevin Costner joins us. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Television.
Jimmy Fallon joins us this morning. Jimmy, how you doing, my friend?
Good morning. Thank you so much, Brad, for having me. I appreciate this, bud.
Kelly Ripa.
Brad, thank you for having me.
Comedy.
Jay Leno joins us. Jay, how you doing?
Hey, Brad, what's going on?
Chris Tucker is in the building. Chris Tucker, good morning to you.
Hey, Brad, and good morning to you. How are you?
George Lopez joins us right now. George, how are you doing, sir?
Good morning.
Music.
Lola Monroe.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
The legendary frontman of AC/DC, Brian Johnson, joins us right now. Brian, how you doing?
Good morning, Brad. What looking to talk, give me funny, lad.
Megan Trainor.
Thank you so much, Brad. You're awesome.
Chloe Bailey joins us. I appreciate the time.
Appreciate you.
And more. This is The Collection. Now your host, The Boat.
Brad Gilmore! And I'm so excited to be talking to her right now. We've been talking about this series, such an important series that you can catch on Disney+. It is, of course, Harlem Ice. Samantha Knowles joins us now. Samantha, how are you?
I'm great. I'm very excited to be here.
Well, look, I mean, first off, congratulations on the series. Congratulations on the documentary series. I think I love docuseries in general. I think we live in a docuseries culture now. As Americans, we love a good docuseries. And this has added to that pantheon of great ones that have come out over the last several years. How do you feel about people now being able to see it? You know, once it's out to the public, it's out to the public. You're not in the edit bay anymore. You're not shooting principal photography. It's out, and you gotta stick with it. So, how do you feel about the people finally seeing it?
I'm very excited. I think I'm so excited to share it with the world because there's so many moments that are just so fun and funny and a little unexpected, and you know, in some ways might defy what you expect in a sports series. And I'm just excited for people to see it and to have fun with it.
Well, what's so great about sports stories, you know, as you put it in general, and I think the fascination with Americans and sports in this country, or really the world around, honestly, is that sports stories are human stories. It's not about, you know, a competition as much as it is you find yourself rooting for somebody because you know more about them. For instance, we had the Super Bowl last night, and at the time that we're doing this, Jalen Hurts is from Houston. I'm from Houston, so I wanted to see him win. I wanted to see him go out there and do it. And sometimes it's just that small of a connection that really connects people to a larger story.
Yeah, and I love that. And I think, you know, I'm not a skater, I'm not, you know, but I'm a storyteller. And I think that was what was so foundational in, you know, my approach to this series was I approached everything, even the synchronized skating, even that, you know, the hurdles of skating on Olympic ice was inherently about these stories about the girls. And that's what was really exciting about, you know, about the approach to this show as a whole. Even as we're filming the skating, you know, we had our DP on ice, you know, filming, and that was about storytelling and you know, about movement and choreography, and so that was really an exciting part.
Because also figure skating is physical storytelling. I mean, there's a beginning, middle, and end, you know, as you're discussing and capturing that. I'm sure there's a lot that goes into that. I don't know if you did you have to find the DP who could ice skate, or like how do you figure that out?
Well, I can't say enough about our DP, Nelson Hume, just to shout him out.
Shout out Nelson.
And I had been working with Nelson for years, and he's one of those people who, of course, he'd be like, "Oh yeah, I happen to ice skate," and you'd be like, "What? And can you do it with a camera?" Yeah. Okay, great. It was really, really incredible. And I come from a dance background, so I approached it. It was kind of this meld of like, he skates on the ice with the girls. The girls are kind of dancing on the ice and in some ways. And there really was, what I always say is there really was this choreography in front of and behind the camera. And it really was very technical in a lot of ways. They are synchronized skaters doing these very specific moves. But also there was a lot of artistry in how we filmed it. So it was like a really interesting combination of skill sets that were at play.
So I'm always fascinated when it comes to documentaries because you have to well, I guess with any series or project you have to spend a lot of time with it intimately. But I'm always curious from the filmmaker's perspective where the genesis of the idea came from or how the story landed in your lap and what made you feel compelled, like, you know what, yes, this is an important story. So how did it first land on your radar?
Well, I've lived in New York, the state, my whole life. I've lived in the city for 15 years, and I had no idea about this program until Imagine Entertainment, the production company working with Disney, approached me about it. And I didn't tell them at the time because I wanted to play it cool. But in a lot of ways, it was my dream project because I had grown up dancing and I saw a lot of parallels to, how I had grown up and what these girls were doing. I think the big difference and the exciting difference was that I grew up in a mostly white community, a mostly white program, and this was specifically tailored to girls of color. So I was really excited to kind of latch on to that. Also, one other thing, I have to shout out another Houston native. I had one very exciting thing that we learned on our first shoot, which was at a competition, was that these girls skate to Beyonce. So that was really, really, I was like, oh, I'm sold. I'm sold on this. But it was really in every way, it was really, really a dream project. And what the girls do, as they're skating to Beyonce, is they're doing that in the larger white, very white skating world. And that's not easy. And so I was really curious about what that looked like for these teenagers to be doing that. So that's everything we went into the show with.
Yeah, it is interesting because figure skating in general, you would consider a predominantly white organization, sport for lack of a better term. And I just though see as time progresses, and not just with figure skating, but kind of with traditional athletics that might be of a certain ethnic persuasion. It's all changing. Like, we're going to shout out a lot of Houston people. Simone Biles. I got to shout out to Simone Biles, right? Another Houstonian Olympic woman of color who's really represented herself well and has given young women of all races, but specifically women of color, to go, wow, she can do that at the world stage. Why can't I? And I think that's also part of the story that you're telling here with Harlem Ice.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And I can never say enough about all of those incredible athletes. And because, seeing them in all of their forms, seeing them set boundaries, seeing them be unapologetically themselves, that has paved the way for so many others. And I hope Harlem Ice exists in that same legacy.
So when you do a documentary, you don't know what you're going to get. You have this great story in mind. This would be the perfect version of this series. As this happens, then this happens, and this happens. But you're not writing a screenplay. A lot of this is coming together really in the edit, I would imagine. The documentary kind of comes together in the edit. Walk me through the process of how did you envision it in your mind versus the end product that we got? Or was there a difference?
I love that question because documentary filmmaking is this really wild process of like incredibly intense preparation, then getting in the field and like throwing all of it away because nothing ever happens the way you think it's going to happen. And then going back to the edit and kind of recreating some sense of like some combination of those two things. And I think this was such an example of that because, we're skating on the ice. it's a follow series. So we were filming like every day. We were really embedded with the girls, which is different than my past work, but also they're kids. So like they say things and you never know what direction they're going in. So you'll plan. I remember one time, one of my favorite stories is I was like, okay, so we need to build the narrative of like the competition. And okay, the coaches tell the girls to have an alter ego on ice. So, okay, everybody, let's talk about your alter egos. And so I asked Ashley, and she's like, Sasha Fierce. And I was like, classic. That's a great one. Then I asked Tori, Ashley's sister. And Tori's like, and I'm taking notes and like interviewing her. And Tori's like, Aretha Franklin. And I was like, I was shocked. And I think it's such a I love telling that story because we just went with it and it became this recurring theme. It helped to sharpen her story arc, and now it's one of, collectively I think it's one of our favorite moments in the show. And so it's really about being able to embrace all of the ebbs and flows, but also just going in the directions that these kids take you. And the reward of that is that I think it really gives the show this kind of authenticity and this kind of like, kind of candid feel where you feel like you're really hearing from the girls because you are.
Well, but that's what's so brilliant, if I can give you the compliment of that, because some people might hear the Aretha Franklin comment and you go, okay, that's funny, cool. Next, what's yours? And they go, oh, I'm, whatever, Sasha Fierce or what have you. But to hone in on that, to know that, because like I feel like a documentary is really, it's like every story, but it's made up of moments, these very specific moments. And if you miss that moment as the filmmaker, you've missed the moment. And like you said, you could have missed out on this whole great story arc that sharpened the story. Is that just something that you've developed, that sense of keying in on a moment by doing these documentaries? Or is it some sort of a natural instinct of like, no, that I got to have that. That's perfect.
I love that question. I think it's something that I uniquely had to do. I think it's something you have in every documentary, but when you're in an embedded shoot, it's so it's so different because we were editing at the same time that we were shooting and everything's happening at once and you're constantly pivoting. And so I think it's just you really have to like sharpen the film's voice, the voice of the series. But you also have to really believe in the girls and what they're saying and believe that inherently what they're saying is saying something about them and that inherently is important. And you have to interrogate, okay, Tori says she loves Aretha Franklin. Is that a joke? Okay, let's listen to what she's saying. And what we uncovered is that means that Tori, she's a performer at heart. After we started to embrace that, we pulled out clips of Tori as a little kid singing Dreamgirls. And she's a performer. And that made her different than some of the other girls like Adriana, because Adriana is, she's very much a technical skater. She works really hard. She loves to do her Johnny Weir slide. But when you start to really listen to the girls and go with every surprise and really interrogate it, you start to see all the contours of what makes them unique. And that's really how you build an immersive world. And so I think it was just being rewarded by that constantly. And that's something I love about the series because of something Tori said, she was 14 at the time, we had to pay for Aretha. And I love that, I love that. It's like, go Tori.
Yeah. And to me, what's also cool about this series, there's a quote I love, and I feel like this series is emblematic of it. And because I used to be guilty of always saying, oh, I get in where I fit in. I get in where I fit in. I get in where I fit in. But I heard somebody say one time, you can get in where you fit in or you can make some room. Right. And I feel like what the girls are doing in Harlem Ice is they are making room for themselves. It's not just get in where you fit in. It's we have this unique story that we want to tell. We have dreams that we want to pursue, and we're making room in this world for that.
Oh, I love that. Can I steal that quote?
Take it. It's yours.
Who said it? I'm gonna nail the attribution. But I love that because that's something that, people ask me a lot. What did you learn from the series? And I think when I went into it, I was gonna be like, well, I learned what a 3-spoke is, and I learned how it turns into a wheel. But I really learned about like exactly what you said, being bold, standing out, like genuinely. People talk about that all the time, but to see 14, 15, 16, 17-year-olds do it, and not only on Olympic ice at Lake Placid, not only at a competition called Colonials, but also in front of our cameras, was incredible. And I think they're always making space, and I'm so proud that we got to document it. And even our series itself is them continuing to make space. So I love that quote.
Well, yeah, it's yours. But also talking about the level that it's on and making some room, Disney Plus. I mean, the biggest streamer, one of, if not the biggest streamer out there. To have this story told on that platform, how do you think that helps amplify this story?
Oh, I mean, I hope it. I mean, all I can say is I realized that there was a landing page on Disney 2 days ago already, and I screamed, and I so I'm still coming to terms with it too, but because I saw the girls, there's a picture of them already on there, and I was like, oh my God. So it's incredible. And I truly, like, I hope people fall in love with their stories. The girls are so infectious. I hope the girls get everything and more that they want out of it. And I'm just really, really excited for the world to see, to see them on this platform. It was, one thing that has been exciting too, because it's Disney Plus, there already have been people on TikTok being like, oh, what's this series about? And that's been really, really fun. So, I really hope it just amplifies their
Well,
stories.
I think that you're going to see an overwhelming reaction from people on all social media and in all media outlets over this series, because it really is that fantastic. I want to come back though to a question I started with and hone in on it. So a few years ago, back in 2020, I published a book and I threw it out there. A year later, I go, I wish I would have done this, and this different. So I went and I did another version of it. And then last summer, I look at it again. I'm like, oh, I could have done this so much better. And I'm like, can I do another version of it? I don't know how to leave things alone, is what I'm saying. For you, going through the edit, like, when do you know it's done, though? Because you have so much footage. You have, like it's not just a one, script. It's like a living, breathing, piece of art, a docu-series is. So how do you know when it's like, we got what we needed here? And do you ever have the ability to turn your brain off and go, okay, I'm living with it. I know we could have done this, and this, but I'm living with it.
It's so funny because I think a lot of creatives have told me this, exactly what you said. Like, you could edit until I could be editing now. You know what I mean? Like, we finished it a year ago. Like, I could still, I would never stop. I was working right up until the end because you always get a new idea and a new, and I just, I'm like, I guess I'm just, that's my creative brain never stops. But, one thing I am really proud of is that, like, we did have that, we got to have this big kind of, I don't want to give it away, but we got to have this big kind of culminating moment. We got to have this ending that felt really satisfying and really felt like it was of the girls. We got to, we got to have so many special moments, in the series. And it really is, I'm so proud of it, and so beautiful, and it's so beautiful. But my creative brain is like, oh, could I fit in one more joke? That's what always happens. But I adore everything we were able to do. And yeah, it's just amazing.
So this is my final question, because I'm just always curious. And this one, it's a question I like to ask, but this one, it might be a little bit more, on the nose. But was it always Harlem Ice? Was that always going to be the title? Because I feel like a title is so important. It really is so important. Like, it's the difference between clicking on something and in this day with so much content. That title's got to stand out. And they say don't judge a book by its cover, and that's true. But sometimes you judge a title off its title. Like, am I going to watch this? Harlem Ice. Was that always going to be the name of it?
It from pretty much from the beginning. We,
Yeah.
The show always has like an internal name that you refer to it as, and our internal name was always Harlem Ice. It's the name of their team, of their competitive division.
Right.
And then once we all kind of looked at each other, and we all were kind of like, yeah, it's Harlem Ice. It's Harlem Ice. Yeah. So.
And if you could, when people walk away from this after watching, what's the biggest takeaway? That's always the tough question to answer, but like, what's the big takeaway you want people to have?
I just want them to, I really want them first and foremost to have fun and to see this programs like this and girls like this, first and foremost, is like joy and fun. First of all, of course, I want it to be the reason why people want to continue to support these programs and everything. But I want to lead with fun. I remember, reading an article about Abbott Elementary early on. And what I loved about it is that it was talking about one of the biggest reasons why it's successful is because it lets Black kids be kids. And I was like, that's what I want for this show. I want to lead with joy and kids being kids and, just to laugh and cry and, hopefully dance.
Take me away to where I had a kid's innocence, because innocence, that's what I've been missing ever since. Another great quote I love to reference. But you know what, Samantha? I had so many notes, I didn't get to any of them. It was a great conversation. I really had a great time talking to you. Congratulations on the series, Harlem Ice on Disney Plus. Really appreciate you.